Welcome to A Matter of Music. I'm Dawn Wisner-Johnson.
And I'm Beth Wisner-Jansen.
We're happy to have you here today. We're going to go over ideas, tools, and education to help you get through this crazy business of music. And would you please subscribe if you're listening on YouTube? If you're listening on our podcast, please subscribe there and download. We would really appreciate that. Go to amatterofmusic.com. There's all kinds of information and things for you there. We consult, and we would love to have you visit us there. So thank you for being with us today.
We are going over PROs again. This is our second podcast on PROs because it's such a big subject. We decided to break it up into two. We will be having some guests come on from some of the PROs. We're going to reach out to ASCAP and BMI and CSAC and see if we can get some of those guys on to kind of walk us through the ins and outs of what they do and how they do it and give us a little bit more in depth. We also have some classes coming up. If you are interested in music sync, we have a class coming up, and we also have a more general class coming up as well. And if you have any questions, please go to our website, amatterofmusic.com. You can email us there, or you can put comments on this if you have anything that you would like us to address in the future. So here we go, PROs number 2.
I want to get into now, I think I can go into this a little bit, how the PROs pay.
So basically each PRO, while she's looking up her information, each PRO has their own formula that they figure out how to pay out. So they will see how many songwriters they have, how many songs they have, how many of those are getting placed, and they have these blanket licenses with different people. So they're collecting from all over the place. They're collecting one type of income from music that's played in coffee shops. And so that music is going to get paid out to the people that are being played in coffee shops. So they have a formula to figure out who that income goes to. Right. They have another formula that they get some money from some TV stations that are broadcast, US TV stations, but they're broadcasting off, not in the continental United States. And so at the end of the year, they have to pay them a big chunk of money, like $600,000. And then the PRO will have to figure out who's working in television and getting placements, and they'll divide that money up, and everybody gets a little piece of it. So these, they'll also
as well.
Pardon? Radio. Radio as well. So that, the top people are going to make the most money because they're going to have formulas to figure out, they're going to be taking in information of how many times this song gets played, but they're not going to get exactly how many times that song gets played on everything. So when there's a little bit of extra money, they're going to pay a little bit out based on who gets paid what. For the television, they've got the deal, so we go back to CBS has a deal with BMI, and they're going to get, say $2 million or something. I have no idea how much they get. Let's say they get $2 million, and they've got X number of shows, and they kind of guess based on what happened last year, I'm thinking, or I don't know how often they updated the formulas. This is about how many plays we're going to get for features, how many plays we're going to get for background, how many plays we're going to get on network, how many, first time air, how many we're going to get on the cable channel the network is using, and, for reruns and stuff. And then they figure that out in this very complex formula for when there's a feature for minute 22, we're going to pay, and it pops it out.
Right.
They're very complex formulas, and they all have different ones.
Right. This is the way they've been doing it for over a decade, forever. Okay. I don't know. I did see in my research that there used to be only the 3 networks. Now, when would this have been, Beth?
Let's see. Fox Network came along in the late 80s, early 90s. Okay, right. I used to come home and watch.
Right. Yeah. So I was thinking 60s, 70s, 80s is probably when there were 3 big networks. And this was
up through the 90s. Yeah, I would say up through the 90s.
This was a much easier time back then. If there was a composer working for a TV show, and mostly they were composers back then, you didn't hear as much actual, songwriter music, right?
And so you didn't hear as much stuff that was on the radio.
Exactly. It wasn't common then. So back then, a composer knew there was more of a set rate. He knew that if he had 10 minutes of score in a show, it regularly paid about $150 a minute. If there were 20 episodes, he would make such and such money. And so these composers that were working back then, this system was kind of in place. And we're going through this now because with the emergence of all of the audiovisual streaming services, Amazon, Hulu, Apple, Google, Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, as I even mentioned to you just a while ago, we're seeing payments from Facebook now. We're going to be probably next quarter, I'll see Twitch or somebody else, because these deals are being made and companies are popping up. So this is why it's been harder to really track what you're going to get paid. So I'm going to tell you how they're going to pay you, and then I'll give you some examples of how some of us have gotten paid, different channels and things like that, so you can kind of get an idea. Did you want to say something, Beth?
No.
Okay. Cue sheet.
No. Yeah. I'm just thinking about how much more we have to talk about. Whoa.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'll go into this quickly and then we'll.
No, don't be quick, because we can save the other information for another one.
Okay. So how does a PRO pay for television? This is what I'm going into right now. Cue sheets are your friend. If you're going to pitch to anything, this is one thing you need to know about is a cue sheet. You need to make sure when we talked about music licensing, and if you're talking to a music supervisor, the thing you ask at the end is always, can I view the cue sheet? Can I have a copy of the cue sheet? Many times you're not going to get that. Let me say another plus for ASCAP. As far as I know, they still post their cue sheets if you get a placement.
And BMI does not.
BMI does not.
Which sucks.
When we first moved over there, I was kind of really bummed about that, because another thing that I would do as far as I would always go and download all my cue sheets, because I wanted to know, I wanted to have that and
you know which shows you got placed on.
I know which,
because you were in a library.
Right.
Library.
So the cue sheet literally it just tells you every song, every composed piece of music that is in, and they go by the minute. You know, at 1 minute and 20 seconds, they played this. Here's the composers, here's the publisher. And that cue sheet follows that TV show. And this is so important nowadays, because as you know, something may air on CBS. Where does it go next? It goes to Hulu, or who knows where.
Right. Because just because Friends was on NBC didn't own it.
No.
I think Warner Brothers owned
right.
it.
So the
things move around. So the
cue sheet is connected to the show. And I will tell you, we had placements on a show that never did cue sheets. And to this day, there are no cue sheets for that show. I hope and pray that that is not happening in our world now. But that's another reason for you to ask, because if that's not happening, you need to really check into it.
Your only other option, if you don't get a cue sheet, if you've got music in a library that's being used by a network or by several networks, and you're not getting any cue sheets, your only option to know for sure if your music is being used or not is to watch every single show. You can't do that.
Well, there is another option now. It's audio.
Metadata tagging thing?
Yes. However, these programs right now are pretty expensive for, you know, unless you get in with a group of people that.
So how does that work?
One that we looked, I'm not completely sure about those you know, but one that we looked at and that I knew a company that was using, you also have to own the publishing to upload this there, unless you get an okay from the publisher. You upload your music there, and it's an audio detection.
Like Content ID on YouTube, kind of.
Yes, it will come back and tell you wherever that has been played.
And they've got computers that are basically scanning everything that's being aired everywhere.
Right. This is, we've kind of been waiting for this technology to get cheaper.
Yeah, it's coming.
Most libraries will tell you, we use this one, but these are big libraries that have the resource to do this. They upload it all in bulk, and that's how they kind of check things for themselves. If you're a small time, person, you can't always afford to do that. So, but I think it's gonna, it's gonna come down and it'll
So
be cheaper.
if you're negotiating with some show, make sure you try to get the cue sheet.
Right.
You
Anyway,
might get it, you might not.
usually you're going to have cue sheets and they will forever be linked to the TV show. So that's why this is important, because that's how the PRO is going to pay you. So payments are made quarterly. Usually they're anywhere from 5.5 months, which is BMI, to 9 months out behind, based on their accounting. They're getting everything into their systems, and then they pay you, 2 to 3 quarters later. Your payment, though, will be figured differently depending on which PRO you are with. Here, once again, I can't go into it because I don't even know the formula completely, but this is where I can tell you, I can give you some examples based on some of the placements that we've seen. This is through BMI, and this is, say, the same song was played on ID Discovery Channel. In fact, it was actually the same, I believe it was the same
airing?
Same show.
Okay.
Same show on a different channel. So it was ID Discovery Channel and it was the OWN channel. And so, which is Oprah's network.
Right.
So sometimes these networks will buy content and they'll replay it on there. So on ID Discovery Channel, it was a 22-second placement and it paid $1.85. On the OWN channel, for the same 22 seconds, it paid $8.32. Almost $7 more.
And that was on BMI.
And that was through BMI. Here's another example. Freeform station, 2 minutes and 2 seconds, which is over a minute, and I'll get into that in a minute. On Freeform, I can't even believe this only paid this. They're owned by ABC. It only paid $2.04. On Hulu, the same usage paid $11.91.
Hulu also mostly owned by ABC. But here we go. It's not who owns it. It's how many people are watching it.
Yes.
What kind of what time it played. So on Hulu, it's going to be a something where you can go and you search it out and you watch it, which
Right.
used to pay almost nothing, but now that's kind of changing. On Freeform, which is a little cable network, right, that you might have an app for on your Roku or something, not as many people are going to be watching that at all.
Right.
So their ad revenue is going to be much, much less. Hulu is a subscription service.
And Beth, I do have to say that I did not check the timing when these were played.
Right. So, but again, on Hulu, I don't know, does Hulu do live TV? Hulu does some live TV. They don't do any live TV, but Hulu is a subscription service. Mm-hmm. So Hulu has, when they're dealing with the PROs and BMI here, they're going to say, we make this much money on subscriptions. This is our income from subscriptions. So when somebody watches a show on Hulu, they know how many people, what their income is, because it's not ad revenue. Whereas Freeform is a little tiny channel that hardly anybody watches, probably, because they keep rebranding it, I think. And, so they're looking at the ad revenue on Freeform to pay this. So they're looking at how much money the company is making. That's how they're going to determine how much the payout is.
Right. And let us just reiterate that network pays the best right now.
We're waiting for that to change.
We are in 2020 right now. I can say that. So the network pays the best. You never know what's going to happen with everything in the courts, everything in the systems, trying to get people to pay more for different things. And that could mean, unfortunately, that network, I hope it doesn't go down, but we hope over the years that it'll stay. Also, Beth mentioned, and I don't have these in front of me, but there are time periods with network. There are 4 different time periods that pay. The best is prime time, which everybody can remember. I think it's about 7:59 to
it's 7:59, so 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. basically.
Right. And then the second best is from 12:59 p.m. up until maybe 5. I don't know. Anyway,
You guys
I'm
know what
sorry.
I'm talking about.
Sorry, I don't have those in front of me, but those, they also pay based on those because they know there are more people watching in prime time. And I will say we have had a lot of placements on the soaps, and usually those are after 1 or 1 o'clock and on. So those have had more viewers over the years, and so I think that's part of it. Why
Again,
that?
they're basing it on how much revenue they're getting by how many people are watching. So
Yeah,
how much an ad buy is for a a daytime show versus a nighttime prime time show. So
right.
they're weighting it on that.
Right. I found another statistic, and I think this is correct. Although I need to go check on someone I know who had a song on camera and he didn't get what he should have. Examples of how much money approximately per minute something will be paid. The one that I saw said if something's sung on camera, it's 5,000. Seems high to me. I don't know if they're paying that anymore. Background in a scene, about 1,000 to maybe 1,300. And then theme is 2,000. Let me also say, I'm speaking of a song with a vocal. So
For a minute,
for a minute of play,
that's in prime time on
pretty
a
much in
network.
prime time in network. Or it could be that second one that I mentioned from 1 o'clock on in the afternoon, depending on so many things. So
That's
go
why
ahead.
what's his name with David Letterman always used to write those little songs.
Oh,
Every time he wrote one, I was like,
oh,
ching.
oh.
Oh, he would just goof on them during the show. And I would just see
Right.
dollar signs flashing
He
up.
knew what he was doing, didn't
He
he?
knew what he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm writing a song right now.
Let me talk about PRO statements since I'm on it right now. What you're going to see in there, we talked about, they're going to talk about performance use, which is what I just said. A background vocal would be something that's played underneath dialogue. Even if this is actually doesn't have to be underneath dialogue. It can be as scenes are going by as well.
But you're not seeing the source of the music. So it's not
Right.
coming out of a radio or out of somebody's mouth or something like that. So it's just playing in the background, right?
Well, this is also source. It's all within the BV, which is background vocal.
Okay.
Or is there one other term? There might be for ASCAP. Anyway, I'm going off of what I see at BMI statements. I can look at those.
ASCAP's going to have some different wordage and verbiage.
Right. There's also background instrumental. Background instrumental is not going to pay nearly as much. I need you to understand. Songs pay more. Let's think about how many uses there could be for background instrumentals. Think about some of the reality TV shows you see. There's background instrumental all the way through those things constantly. And some of the shows now are using background vocal more, even when there's not a jukebox or they're not in somewhere, you still hear it. But that's a relatively new thing. So basically, I believe that background instrumental should be that way because there's so much more use for it.
We'll also consider, I want people to understand, if you write a song for a library, if you're, because I'm thinking of the, people we work with that would sell a song to a library or license the song to the library. If they ask for a version without a vocal on it, they can use that version as a background instrumental, just so you are aware of that. So they, you might get a lot of usage out of a song that is a song, we talk about compositions and song. You might get a lot of usage out of a song that doesn't have the vocal on it if you have a mix like that as a background instrumental. Just throw that out there.
We've seen that a lot. We'll sell a song to a library, and then certain shows just hone in on that instrumental and they like the movement of it or whatever, it works, and they start using that a lot. So another one is visual vocal. This is when someone is actually singing the song. Then there's a visual instrumental as well, which means somebody is playing a song. So you see somebody playing a guitar in a club or wherever, just sitting around a campfire, they're playing a guitar. But there is a difference between visual vocal and visual instrumental. But a visual anything will be paying more than anything background, just so you know.
And those are much more, they don't happen as often.
Right. Yes. And then there's a featured vocal. And the featured vocal, what is that one going to be, Beth?
I thought that was when you were, is that the top paying one?
Yeah, it is.
I thought that was the one that you saw the person singing it.
No, that's actually the visual. So these terms could be, I'm going to check up on these and maybe I'll put them in the description.
I remember sitting in a meeting with ASCAP and them telling me things and I'm like, what are you talking about?
I know.
We're talking about if you see a jukebox and then they pan back, that's a whatever.
Right.
And I'm like,
and
even the different, when we left that meeting.
Even the different PROs have different ways that they call these things. So I'm giving you some terms that you can look for, but I will try when we post this to put definitions for ASCAP, BMI, and maybe CSAC if they all have a little bit different way that they look at it. So let's go back to, we're looking at your PRO statement. The other thing you're going to see there is how long your song was played. Remember I told you one was 2 minutes and 2 seconds and one was 22 seconds. They get right down to the seconds and you get paid for every second. Believe me, there's a formula and that is plugged in. So if it's 24 seconds instead of 22, your money's going to be a little bit more. But
they each pay differently on how well. You're going to talk about accruing now.
Oh yeah, no, each one, you mean each usage, background vocal.
Are you planning on talking about that? I'm sorry. If they play the same song 5 times in a show.
Right. No, yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
that's a bonus.
So that would be bonus stuff. So ASCAP is going to pay different than BMI on that. And I'm trying to remember which one's which. Do you remember?
BMI gives you an actual dollar amount. Anything over $1.
No. But
they are going to
accrue the time. Okay, so
pardon?
If there's, Dawn and I are not communicating because we're not in the same room. So our telepathic abilities have been lost for a second. So if you have a song that's used 5 times in one show, right? And they keep coming back to let's say it's a background vocal and they keep coming back to it 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 15 seconds. And they come back to it because it's a couple and they're playing the song and they come back to it 5 times. One of the PROs is going to pay you for each time that's used 15 seconds, 22 seconds. One of them is going to accrue that time. It's 15 plus 15 plus 30. So now you're at a minute. So now you're over a minute.
ASCAP accrues.
So ASCAP is accruing. They're adding all that time for that one show. They're going to add all that up. And at the end of this episode, they're going to say, this was played for 1 minute and 22 seconds. And because it was over a minute, you get this much money. Now BMI, which pays in a different way, is going to say, we're going to pay you for 15 seconds. Each time it plays 30 seconds, 15. We're going to pay you a snippet, a little bit for each time it plays. But then some of them have super usage. And
that is BMI. Anything that's over a minute, even if it's right at a minute, they give you your payment for your minute. And then they have a super usage column. And those are based on a minute and 5 seconds. They give you more money for that.
It's like it's like a CEO's bonus.
Yeah.
Comes out of nowhere for.
So those, and I believe that both of them, although they don't tell you on the statements, I know they do. They both have bonuses for
I know what you're
how
saying.
much use you've had.
If you have a song that's been in a library and it's been used for years and years, and it constantly gets just a little bit of use, or a lot of use, the more it's played, the more it's paid.
Right.
Just like on the radio for the big, songs. The more it's played in TV shows and it's synced, the more you get. So at the beginning, if you had a 20-second little snippet, you might have made $20. I'm just going to keep it simple. 5 years later, that thing has been, you've had 2,000 little snippets. it's been moving up in this thing's really cool and people like it. So now that 20-second snippet might pay you $50. So
Like, I think, do they call it a weighting system?
weighted system, yeah, it's weighted.
Weighted system. Like
Yeah.
WEIG.
So they begin to give more weight to something that's been around a long time and is used a lot. So, so those, again, I'm back to Friends, man, all those little cues that they used between scenes. Who that composer was making some.
Who was composing on that? I know, they're happy people. I'm just going to finish going through what you're going to see on your statement. So we just did performance use, the type, we did the timing, the period, which we talked about earlier. They're going to tell you, was that in prime time, wherever it was. The next column is going to tell you your percentage. So say, let's just be easy. You have a co-writer, so you each have 50% of that song. Now, mind you, this is your writer's statement coming in. So you have 50% of the writers, a co-writer has 50%. You're going to see that there. It's going to list it for you. And then the next column is going to tell you your payment that we just discussed. As Beth said, you could have a minute of use for one song. Right down there, you could see another minute of use, but say that one song has been on 5 different shows, 10 different shows, and then that show used it, but this other one is new, you're going to see a different payment for that minute of that same song in a different place, and because it's newer. So you're going to see the payment, you're going to see the super usage if you get a bonus through BMI. There's also a theme bonus that comes in with some of the PROs that you're going to see. If you have a theme on a TV show, this is going to generate a lot of money for you. They not only pay better, but they also give you another bonus for that. So, and then the final at the end is going to add all that together, and you're going to see your final royalty amount. And
but
then,
if you're thinking you're going to climb into your statement and figure out exactly, you hear your song on a TV show, and 9 months I'm going to get paid for that, and you're going to kind of try to figure out how much you're going to get paid. Good luck, because you don't know all of these little things. It's very complicated.
So as far as I'm going to go back to signing up for a PRO, I want to explain once again, we have some other podcasts on this, but I need to tell you here, you are a songwriter signing up for a PRO. You have decided, I'm going to go with ASCAP, okay? If you don't have a record deal, a publishing deal with somebody else, you are self-published. You own your publishing. And you will see a lot of things about this, but you need to be clear on how this works. At ASCAP, if you sign up as a writer and you own your own music and you're giving this to a sync agent or a music supervisor, you have to be sure that you also sign up as a publisher, because we've been talking about royalties and everything that you're going to make as a writer, but there are 50-50 on this payment from your PRO.
Every time you write a song or composition, it's split into 2. And we have another podcast on publishing you can go look at too. It's split into 2. You're split into the songwriter portion, which is 50%, and the publishing, which is 50%. Unless you have unless you have a publishing deal or you have a record contract or something, you're going to own that publishing as well. So you need to understand that you have 2 sides you need to deal with.
Let me also explain, we've talked a lot about people who write for libraries. Most of the time, if you're writing for a music library, they are going to own your publishing for only those songs that you sell to them, which would be considered work for hire music that you give to them. Even in that work for hire, you still maintain your writer's royalties, but that production music library is your publisher. But let's go back to, especially I've talked to some people who are going to be, we're going to be going together and I'm going to sync and pitch some music for you. Let's say this is happening. You need to have your own publishing account at ASCAP. So we mentioned earlier, it's a $50 application.
What if you don't? I'm sorry.
What happens if you don't? If I get a music placement for you, we get the upfront, we split that. Now you are gonna be on that cue sheet. You're gonna get paid as a writer. There's a publishing amount. If there's no publisher, it's flushed down the drain.
It basically goes into what they call a black box.
Goodbye.
50% of royalties never get paid out is the estimate. So
I'm letting that sink in.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I just want you to really understand that even if you go, wait, I'm not a publisher, I don't have a company, it does not matter. You do not have to have a company to sign up as a publisher at ASCAP. You give them 3 to 5 possible names, bring this out of the sky and figure out what you want.
Unique and weird, because everybody else
have to have a business set up or anything like this. You just need to sign up with ASCAP as a publisher. And then when you get your royalty checks, you're going to get paid as a writer and you're going to get paid as a publisher. And these are exactly the same payments. So now you are a happy camper because you made double what you thought you were going to make as a writer. Let's move on to BMI. This is new information, at least for me. BMI says that they pay the publishing side to the writer if they don't see a publisher. I am very
if
happy.
you sign up at ASCAP and you forget to do your publishing and you just sign up as a songwriter, that publishing just kind of disappears.
Yes.
If you do that at BMI, BMI is saying we're gonna assume you're the publisher.
Can I say something though? I have not seen this on statements yet.
Is every statement you're seeing have a publisher on it assigned?
I believe so. What I'm telling you here, and we have told you this so many times about the business, make sure you understand what's happening with your own content. And if it was me and I was going to be placing a lot of music, I would spend that $150 at BMI and have my publishing, because then I could see it, how it was tracked, and I could understand this. Or go to your BMI rep and make sure that they understand and tell you exactly how this is going to happen. And once
if you can't afford it, if you're dirt broke and you're just trying to get started, and BMI is going to let you sign up for free as a songwriter, and you just can't come up with $150, don't let that stop you from signing up and putting your music in a PRO if you think you're going to be getting placements and getting some income. When you get some income, you can always go back.
It's very true.
And sign up for publishing.
And let me say this, you can even go back on the cue sheets. It won't be there, but you can tell your rep, I want this catalog of songs now to be with this publisher. And I haven't gone into that yet, but publishers change.
Yep.
Think about having a publishing deal. Somebody signs you, they give you a publishing deal. The term is 5 years. You come out of that publishing deal. Many times all of those songs stay with that publisher, but we have so many situations where they don't. So if that publisher had registered that already, you have a new contract that says, I'm terminated. I now own these songs, and you can go to BMI and say, here is the new publisher on my songs that used to be with this publisher.
I just want to caution here. Most publishing deals are not going to give you your songs back easily.
Very true.
Don't let what she said. That does happen. So it depends on your contract. So if you've got if you're a Nashville songwriter, you've got a publishing deal, your publishing's gone.
Very true.
There are some new deals depending on who you're signed with, and publishing is real estate. So there's a lot of new players in it. There's a lot of people who are looking at as investment in publishing. So there might be some deals where you've got a friend and you're signing up, and after 5 years, if they don't get used, if they don't get placement or get that song on a record, they might let you get it back. So know what your contract is, but know that either you're going to get your publishing back or it's going to stay with where it was. Now, where it was can then sell it too.
Yes.
Sometimes publishing changes hands, and publishing goes a long time. It's 75 years after the death of the last songwriter that we're talking about copyright here. So that can change hands dozens of times.
Right.
So
yes, in no way was wanting to imply that you can just jump around from publishing deals. I was giving an example so that you would understand that, yes, it's important to have your own publisher. So,
if you can, please do.
but what I would say is, as Beth said, if you feel like you're just starting out, you don't want to spend the money to be a publisher, BMI is the place for you to go. So
and talk to a rep to confirm that.
Yeah, I'm telling you that you can do that. So I do want to say something about foreign royalties. We were talking about international royalties earlier. We talked at length about that.
Foreign royalties the same as neighboring rights?
No. Are they the same?
Mm-hmm.
No, they are not. There's so many other places to get paid. Should we mention those right now?
No. No. There's so many other places.
Talk about that another day, but some of those places are AFM, Sound Exchange, Harry Fox, neighboring rights, what Beth just mentioned. These are going to pay you on the recording, not on your composition, but there are other ways for you to go get paid. And so we're talking about composition and songwriters getting paid now. So I wanted to mention a couple things about foreign royalties. One thing was, I heard a composer mention yesterday that when we were talking earlier about a foreign entity paying, or it being in your best interest to go sign up with one, a composer that I saw was talking about payments that he saw coming out of France and Germany that were so much larger than when his friends were on same types of shows and things, but they were with ASCAP or BMI. And
I'm not following you, Dawn. I'm sorry. So your friend had songs co-written?
No. They were specifically with an international PRO. So remember we talked earlier about signing up with France PRO.
Right.
And your songs are being played in France.
So he's a United States guy signed up with one of the PROs.
Yes. So he gets money back from France for a minute of
through his PRO from a play in France.
Yes.
And it'll be a few dollars.
Yeah, a few dollars. But then the same sort of placements are coming in from other countries, from ASCAP and BMI, through ASCAP and BMI, and he might only get 10 cents.
So his friends that were say he was on the same show as a friend and they both had a song that was played 30 seconds. He was collecting through his US PRO. Yes. And it would take probably a year or two to get that money.
Yes.
And every time it goes through a different PRO, just so you know, in a different organization, they take a little bit of money away. So that French PRO has a deal with ASCAP, and ASCAP is collecting that for him from that French PRO. And he ends up getting, say, 10 cents for that play. A friend who has pretty much the same play from France, who is signed up with the French PRO, might get $5 for that same play.
Yes.
Okay. That's what you were saying.
That is what I was saying.
Okay. I was not following you. I read your notes and I'm like, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. So what are you saying? Can that guy now go to Songtrust, or can he go directly to the French PRO? What does he do?
He could do either of those things. And here's the thing about Songtrust that I have enjoyed. I do have a rep there as well. So anytime I have a question, this sort of a question, I go to him and he says, okay, I'm going to send that over to our international in France people that are tracking that and see what we can do. And so I'm alerting them that this is happening.
Okay.
And they may be able to come back and tell me, well, this is all they're going to pay through BMI. Do you understand? Because
yes, but they're only going to pay. They might say they're only going to pay it through BMI.
Right.
So they might not want to deal with you individually or deal with Songtrust.
Very true. That could be.
Okay.
But these are things that if you had Songtrust in your corner, that's definitely a place that you can go.
that's kind of what Songtrust is built on, right?
Yes.
And so when you're thinking about going to Songtrust or not, that would be a good thing to if you have some placements already. I can't imagine you might want to go to Songtrust if you don't have anything yet.
Right.
But if you've been getting some placements, it might be worth having a rep there walk you through from your examples of your placements. Is it worth the 15% off the top? Are they going to be able to collect another 30% for you? So that 15% is worth it. Because if they're going and collecting that for you, if they're not, then it's not worth it. If they are.
Right. And they have terms to their deals as well, you know, a year,
2 years, 3 years, something like that.
You can be with them and you can see how this works and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay. But do you know if they would do that? Does that, from your experience, your communication with your rep at Songtrust, how busy are those guys? Because I know it used to be with ASCAP and BMI, you know, 10 years ago, it was hard to get some of those reps. They were very busy. It seems like they've got more reps now, I think.
I think across the board, people are doing that now.
Okay.
The customer service part,
it's gotten better.
Because there are so many self-published people, you know.
And they're all fighting for the same piece of pie.
They are. And so, you know, and if Songtrust has that's their business, that's what they're doing, you know, they're going to have that business on lock. They know how to go do all of this for you. And like I said, they have deals with all of
they've already got all the relationships, because I think the United Nations says there's 165 countries, 195, something ridiculous number of countries that recognize the United Nations. I don't know how many of those have PROs, how many of those are playing your music, but if you went to sign up for each and every one of those on your own, holy moly.
Because once again, let me reiterate that ASCAP and BMI are not going after your foreign PRO money.
They're just passively, they've signed up with the PROs. They have a reciprocal thing, and they're just getting whatever that foreign PRO, say from France, like we were saying, whatever the French PRO is saying they owe them, they're taking it and passing it on.
Yes, they are.
So and they
are not even going to those PROs and the foreign PROs and saying, where's our money? Because they're busy doing everything in the United States. But
so basically there's some international law stuff going on here where everybody agrees we're going to pay you and you're going to pay us. And then sometimes they might be late or sometimes they might not. And again, also, we keep saying every time it changes hands, there's a little piece of pie that's taken away from you.
Right.
Because everybody collects a fee and collects their thing on it. So if you think that it's not, you know, getting that you're going to get more just sticking with your PRO instead of going and getting 15% taken off the top from Songtrust, they, you know, they might have better deals too.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's very confusing.
It is.
I just want to go back to sleep. It's really confusing. I can't imagine. Yeah. I do, you know, Dawn and I have worked in this business for years, and it's exhausting trying to understand all of this. So
if you guys have been in some Zooms recently, webinars that so many of these places are putting on, Songtrust does it, Songtrader, the MMA, Music Modernization Act, PMA, everybody, MLC, all these organizations are doing webinars, especially right now. And you will see what I want to tell you. Sometimes they're asking each other, which is why Beth and I do this too. Because it's really hard to keep up with the business and everything that's changing right now. So just understand why people don't have all the answers, because there's a lot of new things coming into play right now in law and everything. So,
and every time something new would come up, everybody would scramble to make some way to figure out how to get that money from the entity, how to get it to the people that, you know, it rightfully belongs to, and they're trying to figure all that out, and it got untenable, I would say. There's hope that it's going to get better with the MMA and the MLC and all of that. I think the MLC is only working on digital though, digital radio and stuff. So hopefully, you know, with the new things coming up, GMR and these new companies that are coming up, hopefully some of this stuff starts to get kind of worked out. with the digital age, you would think that it wouldn't be so difficult to know when a song is played somewhere. That should just, I know there are some people, I believe Don Henley is one of them, who's wanting, I hope I get that right, that he's involved in that, and talking about it. Want to get a place where everything is in one place, where you can go and see any song that's been written anywhere in the world, who owns the publishing, who's the songwriter, what PRO they're with, what other companies they're signed up with. Because we live in a digital age, and it doesn't make sense that you can't do that. If Facebook can know absolutely everything about us, then why can't we know everything about a song? So, I just want to encourage you that, I want to give up hope sometimes because it just keeps getting more complicated. But also, the more complicated it gets means you're collecting pennies. There were times when you weren't, I don't think, collecting all of these things, and it wasn't being done. And that black box we talk about, where 50% of royalties are just disappearing, we're trying to shrink that. And one of the ways to shrink that is to make sure that you're signed up in the right place to begin with.
Yeah.
And understand your options. And we can't tell you to sign with BMI, CSAC, ASCAP. We can only give you our experience and some of the information we have. You're going to have to still go do some homework on your own and talk to the reps. Luckily, they're there for you. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage you to continue. If you've listened to a couple of podcasts we've done on the PROs and you're confused and frustrated, like I am right now, by the way, I would hope that you would continue to, you can reach out to other people, and there's a lot of resources out there, and the PROs, they can help you too. They can, walk you through some of this. So I just want to encourage you not to give up too much hope, because it is definitely getting to a point where all those little pennies are starting to come in and starting to kind of make their way. It takes a long time sometimes to get to the people they're supposed to get to, though. So I just felt like I needed to say that, because like I said, I want to go back to bed and head under the covers.
Yes. So I want to thank you for listening today. It's a big topic, but we have lots of those, and we're so glad that you've joined us. Please subscribe down here if you can, if you're listening.
The little bell.
Yeah, the little bell, or leave us a review, or whatever you can do. We would really appreciate it. Go to amatterofmusic.com, and you can find us there. If you need us for an hour or two to help you go over some things, we do consulting. We have classes coming up on some of these things where it will be very small classes and interactive, so that you can we can go over your specific needs. And so we're planning all of these things, and we love having you listen, and we're so glad that you're here. But we're here for you. So we want you to remember that. Go to amatterofmusic.com.